I came home from my job back in Michigan, back in 2007. And I had all my box of my stuff from my office. And I threw it in the door, and she's like, "What's going on?" And I said, "That conversation we've been having about moving to Minnesota," I said, "It's time." She goes, "All right, whatever you need, I'm here to support you."
Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Grit Meets Growth podcast, where we bring you inspiration and insights focused on getting uncomfortable, making things happen, and creating a magnetic life. If you enjoy the messages you're hearing here, please leave us a review on whatever platform you're listening on, and make sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on future episodes of the podcast. With that, let's get after it.
We're all in this game of life, right? We're all trying to win in this game of life. We all need that confidant by our side. That person that I can be open, honest, exposed to, and who's still going to love me. I think we owe it to our relationships to have that kind of relationship. We owe it to our spouses. We owe it to them to tell them everything, to include them in the game, to have them in the front seat next to us, man. I don't know if, listeners out there have experienced this. I may have at one point in my life, right, where you try to be the work guy and you try to be the home guy, and split your personality. And it doesn't work, man. It didn't work for me, and I quite frankly, I don't think it works for anybody. Like, just be the guy, man. Be the guy. She wants to be your partner. She wants to be your ally. Be that guy for her. Dude, you're like going, what do I say?
Well, it's like, okay, here's the deal. Everything you're saying is absolutely true. And as I'm listening to it, I've tried to play both sides of the fence. Exactly like what you're talking about. The work guy, the husband guy. And I would even say I'm the dad guy. And I've got all these identities. And when you say just be the guy, okay, that simplifies everything, because I don't have to figure out what guy I'm trying to be in what situation and how I'm going to show up. But it's challenging. And part of it is when you've had past relationships where you couldn't just be the guy. And you didn't feel like you could share everything. You didn't feel like there's just layers to this conversation. So when Christina and I got married, she would ask like a ton of questions, like, how was your day? Like, what's going on? What'd you do today? What was the highlight? And I'm like, why do you care? Why are you asking all these questions? Like, what, like, I don't know. Because I wasn't used to getting asked the questions. And so then that journey to, I'm going to open up and I'm going to let you see all the scars and all the stuff and all the mess. And if my day is messy at work, I'm going to let you see a little bit of that. I'm going to ask you questions about work. Like, hey, like, bumping into this, what do you think I should do? Like, do you have any advice? It took a long time for me to get comfortable with that. So that's why when we started talking about having this conversation, I'm like, oh, this could be a bumpy ride, because it has taken me a long time to get there.
Listen, dude, if it ain't a bumpy ride, we're not doing our job, right? I mean, we've all been on the bumpy ride. I've been on the bumpy ride too. I'm fortunate enough that we've stuck through all of that. To the point today, I truly believe that our relationship, my relationship with my wife, is stronger than anything ever that would come at me. She is my rock, and I am her rock. Like, we're in it together. I know what she's capable of. She knows what I'm capable of. She knows everything. She knows my deepest, darkest secrets. She knows my challenges. I know her challenges. We have that dialogue on a daily. We support each other in that. Like, I don't know that do we have days where you're like, what the hell? Right? But we face all those challenges together, man. She's right in that front seat, right next to me. She knows where I'm going. She knows where I'm steering the boat. She's like, hell yeah, let's go, man.
I would echo all of those same things about Christina, but I'm reflecting on what it took to get there. And
dude.
And for me, part of it, I came into my marriage with a fierce independent streak. And I've had to tame a little bit of my independent streak and realize that I'm on a team with my wife, that we are a team. We're like, she is like my ride or die right next to me in the seat right next to me. And we're going the same direction. There were a lot of times where we would encounter challenges in our relationship. And if she was sitting here, she would say the same thing, where we were like head to head, we're going to like fight each other over these challenges. And what we realized over time was the challenge is out in front of us. We're going to fight the challenge together and go this way together rather than like bang heads. It just takes a while to get there, and you got to burn the independent streak out a little bit. And you got to burn the independent streak out without losing your independence, which is a whole other thing.
So yeah, and I'm curious. Let's dive into that. What you mean by independence streak? Because when I hear that in my head, I'm going, no, dude. Like, independence. Like, yeah, I still have my independence. So I'm curious to where your head's at on that front.
I think going through a divorce and having that gap between my first marriage and my second marriage. So I go through the divorce. And I am independent. I make all my own decisions. And I had this taste of that. And I think I still I'm a little bit of a driver. I'm like super goal oriented, vision oriented. Like, I know where I want to go. And sometimes I know where I want to go so much that I'm like, you're either on the train or you're not. You pick, I'm going. But sometimes when you're making the decisions, it's not, you're either on the train or you're not, and I'm going regardless. It's, let's have a conversation about where we're going versus where I'm going, and like collaborate on it versus I'm just going to make decisions and fly. That's the independent piece. And so, yeah.
Yeah. I don't, I shouldn't say I don't. I understand that to an extent.
Yeah.
And I appreciate where you're coming from with it. I guess what I'm saying is, and the way I approach it, like, we each have, and we're arriving at the same goal, right? We each have that conversation. Like, this is my independence. This is where I'm going. This is what I'm doing. Are you in? And she's like, this is where I'm going. This is what I'm doing. Are you in? And it's easy because of the years of history that we have with each other now to go, hell yeah, I'm in. Like, I'll give you an example, man. I came home from my job back in Michigan, back in 2007. And I had all my box of my stuff from my office. And I threw it in the door, and she's like, what's going on? And I said, that conversation we've been having about moving to Minnesota, I said, it's time. She goes, all right, whatever you need, I'm here to support you. Within a week, I had most of my stuff packed up in my car, moved out here, moved in with my grandma. Shannon stayed with the girls back home. My oldest was finishing up school for the year. She got the house sold, did all of that. I flew home. We packed it up, on our way, right? We were in it together. There were no questions asked. It was, what can I do to support you? And I would argue that it's the same way in situations that she's had when she hasn't been happy in a job or whatever and wants to make a change. Whatever you want to do, honey, whatever you need, I support it. Like, there aren't any secrets. There aren't me trying to bridge a gap. Oh, am I going to offend her? You know, I want to manage this. I want to go here and do this. Am I going to offend her if I do that? I don't have any of that. And maybe I'm one of the lucky ones, but I've worked really hard. And we as a couple have worked really hard to get to that point. I'm not saying it's all been easy. It's been a tough road. We got 25 years of history. Like, that's a long while.
I think it's not what you're talking about when you say it's a tough road. I think it is a tough road. And I think the thing that I've landed on hard in the last couple of years is the toughest things are generally the best things. Right. We talk about getting uncomfortable here all the time. You want to get uncomfortable, you get into a close, tight relationship with somebody where you know all their stuff, they know all your stuff. You're traveling down a path together, trying to support each other exactly the way you're talking about. There's going to be a combination of high mountain days and valley days, like we've talked about in the past episode. You're going to get those in your marriage, your relationships. But that's part of what makes it awesome. Like, is getting through the valley as a couple and then coming back out as a couple is pretty freaking cool.
You want to smooth the road out? Tell her everything. Tell her everything. Tell her how you're feeling. Tell her how you're feeling about the conversation that she made you feel bad in. Listen to her when she tells you the same. Right? Tell her things. She wants to hear them. She wants to be that partner with you. She wants to go on the battlefield with you. Find yourself that shield maiden that will fight the battle right alongside you and is better than you in some cases.
I think that piece right there is better than you in some cases. Like, I look at Christina, there's so many pieces of me where I have gaps that she balances out for me. She sees things from a completely different perspective than I do, whether it's work stuff or how we're raising the kids or like challenges I'm having. She sees it through a very different lens than I do. And when I'm open to it, I get the benefit and the value of her lens. It means I have to be open to it. I have to be open to hear. But if I am, I get to leverage her strengths all day long and she makes me better. But I got to choose to let her make me better. That's a big piece of it.
Absolutely. Hey, I truly believe this, man. Behind every badass man is a more badass woman. Like that shield maiden type of approach, right? To, being from the land of the ice and snow here, right? The Vikings. Like, yeah, that's what I want. And I think that's what makes us successful as men. If you look back on history and you look back at, successful rulers, successful people, they all have that confident by their side. That person that's willing to go all in, that's willing to say, I don't know about your idea, but I'm with you. I don't know that this roller coaster is really a great idea, but I trust you. I don't know that getting on this motorcycle with you is a good idea, but I trust you.
Trust is the key to the whole thing. It's all about trust. It goes back to doing you ever done the trust fall? Like, I don't know if they still do trust falls or not, but that fall, you'd stand on the edge of the table, you'd put your arms like this and you would drop backwards and everybody would catch you. You do a trust fall with your wife and you've got one person catching you. And it's not a group, it's your wife who's going to catch you.
She better be strong if she's going to catch me.
But, and I've met her. She is strong.
She is strong.
Like it's the trust thing though. Like you have to be willing to let it all go, fall backwards, and know that they're going to catch you. And that's those moments where you have to get vulnerable. That is something that I've been good at in a lot of areas. It took me a little longer. And I think it's coming, like second marriage, divorce, all of those things. I think you go into it maybe a little bit guarded. So it took me a little bit to get vulnerable and do exactly what you're saying. Like, hey, this is how I'm feeling. This is how that conversation hit me. Today sucked. Here's why it sucked. I want to tell you about it. I think as a guy, I was really good at packing all that stuff down and packing it in. And she doesn't want to hear about it. She doesn't want to talk about it. But you hit it when you said you want somebody to be on the battlefield with you. She wants to be on the battlefield with you too. Christina wants to be on the battlefield with me. She wants to be involved in those conversations, but I got to let her in.
Well, you got to let her in and you got to tell her everything because like for me, Shannon knows when I'm burning shit down or I'm jumping off that cliff and she's there to catch me. She's there to grab my foot as I'm going off the cliff going, whoa, dude, where are you going? Like, and I have that mutual respect with her when she says that, like, oh yeah, you're right.
The mutual
sometimes I'm too far, sometimes the fire burns too fast and you're in the shit. And guess what? She'll get in the shit right there with me and dig out together.
But it's the mutual respect piece.
Right.
And then the respect is different than trust too. Like I trust Christina, but respect's a little different. Respect is this level of not only do I trust you, but I care about what you think. I care about having you by my side. I respect your opinions. It's a different layer, but you have to have both.
Agreed.
Sure.
Yeah, respect is earned, right? And the only way you earn respect is by going to battle next to each other.
Yeah. I sent you that story of Hercules earlier today, and it's basically Hercules, and I hadn't heard this before. I'm listening to a book by Ryan Holiday, and it's called Courage is Calling, and he tells this story of Hercules. And Hercules has this opportunity. He's approached, and this is super fast version of the story, but he's approached by these two, I think they're goddesses, and one offers him a life of joy and happiness and no pain. There will be no pain. He'll never have to experience pain or challenges or struggles ever again. And the other one comes to him and she offers him a life of challenges and struggles and hard things. He's going to have to do hard work, but he's also going to live a life of integrity and he's going to live a life of honor. And there will be rewards for that down the path, but he's going to have to go through the hard things to get there. And Hercules looks at the decisions and he looks at the paths. And I think for all of us, it'd be easy to say, well, I want the easy path. I want the path that's full of happiness, full of joy, no challenges. It's just going to be smooth sailing. And then there's that second path that is going to lead to what you really want, but you're going to have to go through some stuff. And I was thinking about that when you brought up the topic of marriage and relationships and whether you're dating or you're married, whether you're the guy in the marriage, the wife in the marriage, whatever your role is, those close relationships come with that decision. And if you want the easy road with no challenges, then you probably shouldn't be in a relationship. If you choose the relationship, you have to get into it knowing you're going to get in some messes and some muck and there's going to be some challenges, but what's on the other side is worth it.
We've mentioned this quote before, but it fits right in here. Hard times create strong men. Strong men create good times. Good times create weak men. And weak men create hard times. We got to be strong. And the only way to be strong is to go through those battles, go through those tough times. Right? We talk often about choose your difficult, choose your tough. It's tough to get up at 5 o'clock and go to the gym or go climb the hill. It's tough to be overweight. Right? It's about choosing your tough, right? It's challenging to be a good husband at times. But you owe it to yourself and to your spouse to stand tall, to be tough, to support her, to lead. It's our job to lead.
And the support, I think, is one of the, I'm going to hit on the lead part in a second here, but the support makes me think about, you mentioned the hill, and I have a vivid memory from last year as I was getting ready for that first trip to Nepal, where I'm going out on a Sunday afternoon to train on the hill. And I remember Christina going, I want to go with. I'm like, I don't know if you want to do that, because it's going to be hard. You're not going to like it, whatever. And she's like, no, I want to go with. And then, so she did, she supported me all the way through the training. She supported me through the trip. I mean, she was my right hand through the entire thing, prepping to go, supporting me while I was gone. Like physically supporting me, praying for me, like all of that stuff. She was all over it. And, couldn't have done it without her. So the support piece is huge. And then you hit on the leadership side. It's easy as a guy to like go to work, check the box. I did, like, brought home the bacon, and now I'm done for the day. I don't have to lead because I did my part. And the leadership and providing for your spouse goes a lot deeper than just like showing up at work, coming home. Like that may have worked 50 years ago when the Brady Bunch, but it doesn't work now. Like you have to lead your wife. You have to lead your kids. Like there's so many guys that don't show up.
Right.
They're passive. They're flip-floppy. They don't make decisions. They're not decisive. They just don't show up.
And we talk about that often in our house, right? Like that evening time, right? So we share in the effort of cooking dinner. There are times where she makes dinner because I have something going on, or I make dinner because she has something going on. Oftentimes we're doing it together. But the biggest challenge isn't the cooking of the dinner. It's what happens after. It's all of those things, right? We have both been gone from the house all day long. We have dinner, we have a great conversation, right? It's always that we sit down at the table and we have dinner together. But again, it's that time after, right? It's the laundry that needs to get wrapped up and finished, and clothes that need to get folded, and the kitchen that needs to get cleaned up, and the vacuuming that needs to happen, right? There are things that need to happen. When we do those together and we support each other through that, it's amazing how fast that stuff can get done, right? It's that divide and conquer. And we each know, some days I'm in the laundry room and she's in the kitchen cleaning up. And other days, she's downstairs in the laundry room and I'm in the kitchen. You got to divide and conquer. You got to support each other, right? It's not just about, and the story is great about her supporting you on your climb and on your trip, but it's our job also to support them. If we expect, right, this is where that trust comes in. If we expect them to trust us and be by our side, we have to be by their side. We have to do our part. And to hear you say we need to lead, it's exactly right. It's our job to lead that effort. It's our job to do that. Let's own that job. No matter who it is, right? Own that job.
I think too, it's really easy in a relationship, especially how long have you said, did you say you guys have been married?
24 years.
24 years. There were probably times in the middle of that where you took the relationship for granted. Like you're going through the motions. And I remember this from my first marriage. You're going through the motions. We were raising 2 kids, 2 twins, basically by ourselves on our own, not a ton of help. We both had careers. So we're grinding it out every single day. And we're like, career is a priority. The kids are really a priority. And at the end of the day, there's not much left. There were like, we existed on crumbs for a long time. We fed our best to everybody else. And the 2 of us existed on crumbs with each other. And you can't live off of crumbs. And because we weren't prioritizing the relationship the way we should have, at some point you look around and you're like, geez, there's not a whole lot left in here. And so you have to not take it for granted, which is really hard when you're trying to balance everything. You're trying to do everything. You got all the stuff, you got the kids, you got the work, you got the jobs. You assume that relationship's always just going to be there. And it's like a garden. You got to fertilize the garden. You got to tend the garden. You got to get rid of the weeds in the garden. If you don't garden the garden, eventually there's no fruit. There's no vegetables. There's nothing in there worth looking at because you haven't taken care of it. You got to take care of it. And that means investing in it. It means taking time. It means prioritizing. And like I waited a lot for her to like plan a date. Like there were probably years in there that I didn't plan one date. And like, I waited for her to tell me where I was supposed to go. I should have planned dates. And I should plan more dates now with Christina. Like, you want to talk about lead, plan some stuff, prioritize your spouse, like make them feel like they matter, like you see them and that they're important. And I'm talking to myself as much as anybody, because I'm still juggling all the same crap that I've always juggled and still having to like remind myself, prioritize her.
Yeah, that's one thing that Shannon says of what she enjoys about going on the motorcycle. She never has to plan anything. It's all planned out. The route that we're going to take, where we're going, where we're going to eat, what we're going to do. I plan all that out. I need to be doing it more often than just on the motorcycle, but at least I've got that dialed in.
What I hear you saying is I need to get a motorcycle.
It makes things easier. Yeah, it's it's a work in progress. But this topic that we're talking about today, I think is important. It's important today in society more so than ever. Those relationships with our spouses are important. You have to work at it. As you were talking about the crumbs, like you got 2 choices. You can either grab 6 gear and keep on trucking, or you can reprioritize. I've done both, right? There's times where you just have to grab 6 gear because you don't have an option. And there are those times that you need to prioritize, but we owe it to ourselves. We owe it to our relationships. We owe it to our spouses to make them a priority.
I had a pastor at one point, and if you're watching this on video, you'll be able to see it. But basically, you take your hand and your thumb is God, next finger is your wife, then you've got your kids, then you've got your friends, and then you've got work. Like in a perfect world, that's your set of priorities. And way too often we have the hand flipped upside down, and work is our biggest priority. Then it's our friends, then it's our kids, then it's our wife, and then it's faith. And that's always been a good reminder to try and keep things in perspective, keep them in the right order. To the point where I've had conversations with my kids about, like, my wife is top shelf for me. my kids they're like crazy important to me. But if that relationship with Christina is off kilter, everything underneath that, everything else in our house is off kilter. So focusing on that relationship and trying to keep that in line and that in check and making sure she knows she's a priority and that she's seen and she's heard and she matters. That's huge. It can't fall down the list.
And guess what? When you do that, when you prioritize your wife, your kids see that. You're teaching your kids, if they're a boy, how to treat their spouse. And if they're a girl, how to be treated by their spouse. That's our job. Our job is to educate our kids, right? Guess what? You get to kill two birds with one stone. Your wife wins in that situation and your kids win. And you win. Heck, it's trifecta.
I'm all about the trifecta, man.
Right?
It's a good conversation. This is probably very well timed for me because I think it is easy to fall into that rut where you take your spouse for granted. You're going fast, lots going on, and for us, I think it's interesting the timing of this right now because and you've gone through a little bit of this, but we're at a point where next year's senior year for my kids. What happens after that, where they end up, what they do, I don't know, but it's we're creeping up on empty nest. Like I better start prioritizing Christina and my marriage and my relationship because once the kids roll, we're going to spend a lot of time together. Like I have the ability to make that really awesome or to take it for granted and not weed the garden and roll the dice on what we get. So
it's the most awesome stuff, man. It really is. I never really included Shannon in my work stuff necessarily. But I got invited to this happy hour a few weeks ago. And it was her day off. And I said, hey, do you want to go to this happy hour? It was amazing. It was amazing for her because she got to meet some new folks. I got to see her interact in that kind of scenario, and she got to see me interact. Like it broadened our relationship. Like I got to see her in an uncomfortable position for her. And she succeeded. And it was so fun to watch. And she got to see me in an environment where I thrive. And look at me and go, like, as we're driving home, going, you're really good. You're really good at conversation and what to say and how to say it. It was a mutual respect situation by including her in it. And it was a lot of fun. So I guess this week's challenge, include your spouse. Include her in the conversation. Include them in the events. Put them by your side. Put them in that front seat. Get vulnerable with each other and see what happens.
I think that's an awesome challenge for the next week or two, man. And I, like I said, the timing is awesome. I appreciate it. I'm glad you brought it up. And I'm kind of glad it was uncomfortable for me, like in the beginning to dive in, because it's a good signal, like dive into the uncomfortable, you guys. If you're hearing this and this is uncomfortable for you, you have a choice to make. You can run from it or you can step into it. And all that fear, all that stuff that goes on with being a little bit authentic and really unpacking your stuff and getting real with your spouse, all those things you're afraid of, step into them. there's really good things when you step into the fear and you don't run from it. So
build an awesome life and put your shield bane right there with you to fight for it, man. With that, make it a great day and get after it.
have a good one, man.
You too.
That wraps it up for today's episode. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for being part of the Grit Meets Growth tribe. And thanks for growing along with us and being part of this journey together. If you know someone who needs to hear the conversation we had today, please share it. If you got something out of this conversation, please leave us a review. And finally, if you want to make sure you don't miss future episodes, just remember to subscribe. We're thankful for each and every one of you. And as my co-host and good friend Chris Cathers always says, make it a great day.